In this video, we will discuss some red flags that you might see when purchasing or renting Forex expert advisors. Stick around to the end to receive a free expert advisor from us here at Prosperity Algo Solutions. So the first sign you should look at when evaluating an expert advisor is the presence of a real-time account. This can be either a live account or even a demo account with a good broker. However, it should be something which is currently trading, and you should see a forward-tested result. Ultimately, if you look at evaluating an expert advisor and there's no link to either an MQL5 signal, a MyFX book, an FX Blue page, just something that shows live bot performance, I would be a little bit hesitant because you don't know how the back-tested strategy is actually performing in the live market. In particular, because it's so easy to overfit a backtest, you can just run thousands and thousands of optimizations and pick the best one. If you are going to look at an EA, you really want to make sure that you have some sort of indication of how it trades live. And this is why the number one red flag would be no live account, be it either a real money account or a demo account. So always just keep an eye out for that. Another red flag would be a perfectly smooth equity and balance curve. So this is a good example of one right here, taken from the MQL5 marketplace. And you can see that if a line goes directly straight up and there's no drawdowns and there's not even any equity drawdowns, this is most likely a fraud. So in the case of martingale systems, you can very well have a rather straight line going up, but you would typically have equity drawdowns. So to clarify, balance refers to the blue line, which means closed trades. So the actual money balance in your account when all trades are closed. However, equity also takes into account floating trades. In a martingale, because you're constantly using a recovery mechanism, you could very well have a beautiful, fairly straight equity curve, or balance curve until it blows up. However, the equity curve will typically dip down. So I wanted to contrast the red flag of a perfectly smooth equity and balance curve with a real martingale system. So this is an example of the Quantum Queens equity curve, which is a martingale system, but at least it's a relatively honest martingale system. And you can see, for instance, that there are significant dips in the equity where a large percentage of the margin is being used up. And it's typically only a matter of time with martingale systems to when the equity goes way, way, way down. And that's when you risk a margin call if you don't add additional capital into the account. But if you see a curve that looks like this, where it's perfectly smooth and there's never any sort of drawdowns, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. So you have to discern that, and a perfect slope upwards should be usually a cause for questioning what the strategy is showing you. So now we can move on to the $1 million returns. Forex expert advisors are one of the highest yielding investments that one can make. You can make exceptional 3-digit, maybe even 4-digit returns depending on the amount of leverage to use. However, with some expert advisors, they will show you outlandish returns, such as $10,000 to $10 million in the span of a year. And you really have to ask yourself, if somebody can turn $5,000 into $5 million within 1 year, why on earth would they sell that to you? And as somebody who sells expert advisors, you typically want to sell a system which is very, very good. However, it still has realistic results because you're able to use the sales of the expert advisor to capitalize on your own trading. However, if you had a magical system which just printed money, it would defeat the purpose of selling it in the first place, because with the same amount of effort, you could just make infinitely more trading this magical system. So every time I see a backtest which shows insane returns, like beyond 10xing, I would always be a little bit skeptical. and I encourage you to do the same. Another really interesting thing to look at are runs. And what I mean by runs are strings of winners and losses. And if you understand like basic statistics and multiplications of probabilities, you can know that the odds of having a perfect distribution of win, loss, or essentially very few losses in a row is very, very unlikely. So if you run a backtest and you see that there's no runs of losers, unless it's a very, very specific strategy, that's something which I would be a little bit apprehensive about. So one exception here would be hedging or hedging-based systems, which are opening both longs and shorts at the same time. However, if you run a fairly normal expert advisor that's running not a particularly sophisticated strategy, and it never has any runs of losers, so it might only have one loser followed by more winners in a row, especially if this is paired with a recovery mechanism where they increase the lot size following one loser, I would be a bit skeptical, because this may point to a degree of over-optimization. So pay attention to, in your MetaTrader backtester, how many consecutive losses were present. Because if there's very few consecutive losses, that can be a bit of a red flag. Moving on to the no discernible strategy. So this is a bit of a more advanced method, as it requires trading knowledge to be able to actually audit what the expert advisor is doing. But from a high level, most trading systems fall into a mean reversion, breakout, or trend following premise. So either they're trading the return to the mean, they're trading a continuation, or they're trying to ride a trend. And they can do this via price action, indicators, hedge strategies, retracements, and the list goes on. But there typically is a certain type of logical strategy behind it. If you, however, run a backtest, and it seems to be doing a combination of all of these systems, and there's no real rhyme or reason as to why it's entering trades, but it always seems to be magically winning for some reason, that's probably not a great sign. Because if something is entering in a seemingly random manner, provided you have enough trading knowledge to assess if something is seemingly random, and it just magically happens to win, that's also not a good sign, because that could indicate the presence of a history reader or some sort of cheating mechanism. Another one of my favorite is the fake AI. So this is when sellers will tell you that a bot somehow uses AI or ChatGPT or some sort of magical strategy, but they don't actually indicate how AI is being used. I include AI in essentially all of or a good chunk of our expert advisors at Prosperity Algo. However, we will also include a model file, or some developers will instead include a link to an API so they can access it via web request. However, if a seller is simply telling you, yep, it uses AI, but they don't explain how, or they don't give any sort of context, I would be very skeptical. So something else to keep in mind. And finally here, discouragement to backtest. This is probably one of the biggest red flags. So if a developer says, hey, the backtest, yes, they may look terrible, but don't trust them because of X reason. Realistically, even if the backtest is sometimes more punitive than live results, which I have also seen, I would much rather be pleasantly surprised by the live results than be disappointed. So therefore, if the backtest looks horrible, you should be extremely skeptical, regardless of what's happening. And if somebody either is blocking the ability to backtest, or is discouraging you or telling you to use a less precise method, likely they have something to hide. So that is something to keep in mind. So these are essentially my list of EA red flags. If you see any of those, be a little bit skeptical. And stick around for the following short clip, where we will share a really good expert advisor with you so you can avoid all of these scammy EAs and just use one of our good ones. Take care and have a great day. Before you click away, if you're looking to get a real expert advisor, here at Prosperity Algo Solutions, we're currently offering our Golden Time Bomb system based on automating the London breakout and opening range breakout 100% for free. Watch the pinned video to find out more and to get access.